The year was 1969, and police in Toronto, Canada, were faced with trying to solve a string of recent local robberies. With nothing to go on, the officers were left with nowhere to look and no one to question.
Sid Hurwhich was famously known as the man who could fix anything. In fact, in his hometown, Sid had quite the reputation. In addition to being a whiz at turning junk and scrap into working electrical devices, he was also the owner of not one, but two successful businesses. Although many considered him strange and eclectic, his talents were legendary.
Based on what many consider the work of Nikola Tesla, Hurwich claimed to have created a device that could freeze time, and the now-retired salesman had an idea that would enable the police of Toronto to put an end to the rash of crime sprees in the area.
So what was this mysterious device? How did it work? And where is it now? Answers to these questions and more. So stay tuned along with this week's Musician Spotlight, featuring Reflex Machine.
Thank you for joining us for this installment of the Supernatural Tendencies podcast. I'm Alex.
And I'm Christy.
And this is episode 12, Sid Hurwich and his time-altering machine.
Sid Hurwich was born in Toronto, Canada, in the year 1918. And even as a young boy, his ability to tear apart broken objects and refashion them into new working devices amazed everyone. Many considered the boy to be almost obsessed with his constant hobby. As Sid reached adulthood, his once considered hobby had developed into a successful business. He had the distinction of being the first private appliance repairman in all of Canada in 1934. His talents were so sought after that Sid evaded being drafted into the Army, thanks to the local electric utility company. It was Sid who was chosen to develop the infrastructure for the public electric utility grid for the city.
To call Hurwich a genius is a severe understatement. His abilities were so sought after that he had amassed quite a fortune providing services through various means, including his immensely successful company, Sidco, and even started a second business, Shock Electric, that was now booming within just a short amount of time. All of that would come to a screeching halt at the tender age of 36 by an almost fatal heart attack. Acting as an eye-opener, Hurwich decided to slow down and go back to doing what he loved the most, tinkering with things.
Growing up as a Jewish boy in the early 1920s, Sid had an appreciation for everything. What some viewed as junk, Sid saw potential. From bicycles to used car parts, Sid would take these discarded items and create something of value, mechanical objects that amazed everyone. And drawing on those distant memories, Sid developed something born straight from a science fiction movie, a simply constructed device that could freeze time. This same machine was even said to be able to manipulate objects in distant locations.
The year was 1969, and local police were faced with a string of robberies and not one suspect. The crime spree had been going on for weeks, and it was Sid who decided that his machine could quite possibly be used to the officers. He decided to give them a call, and after much resistance, convinced the police to at least come and see it for themselves.
An article in the Vancouver Sun-Times cited, "All I recall," said Bolton, one of the police officers in charge, "is that it was under the table, the device, whatever it was, and there was a bedspread over the table. He froze my service revolver. You couldn't pull the trigger. You couldn't lift it up off the table. And even on the table, you couldn't pull the trigger." Sid then responded, "Now take a look at your watches," I remember one of them said. "When did this happen?" And I said, "The minute you walked through that door. You walked in there about 25 minutes ago. Now look at your watches. You're late about 25 minutes. As the security officers filed out of his home, Sid's wife overheard one of them suggest that the Army should be told about the device. That was the first time it entered my mind, for war or Army purposes or anything like that.
Whether or not Hurwich's device helped the Toronto police apprehend the offenders remains unclear. But that's not the end of our story. In fact, this is where things really start to get weird. Being Jewish, Sid attended the local synagogue of Beth Shedek, and it was reportedly in the same synagogue that he received the Protectors of the State of Israel Award from the Zionist Organization of Canada, allegedly for the donation of his time-freezing device to the Israeli military 7 years previously. As cited in an article in 1977 in the British publication Foreign Report, quote, "The device sends out electronic rays to alter the natural composition of electronic fields and centers of gravity of weapons, instrument dials, and mechanical devices. Using the Hurwich principle, there was no reason why the new beams could not reach and disable tanks, ground-to-ground missiles, and complete radar systems. The beams could also be tacked together to form a screen that would make whole zones safe from bombs and missiles," Foreign Report stated.
It is said that on July 4th, 1976, Sid's device was instrumental in the now famous raid on Entebbe, where 101 hijacked hostages were rescued in a daring raid from Entebbe Airport. Explanations as to how the Israeli rescue mission was able to avoid detection by 6 nations varied, but none were believable. Rumors began when Hurwich received his award, and almost immediately the story went viral. Hurwich had been cited as saying that there was absolutely no reason why beams or rays couldn't be used to disarm missiles, tanks, and even radar systems over vast areas.
Although the Israeli government has never confirmed Hurwich's involvement in the raid, or even that his time-freezing machine was in their possession, one thing is for sure: you won't find any patents listed for such a machine. Hurwich says there's no need for one because it's so easily copied, and he isn't a fan of them anyway. As he put it, "I'm not a young man anymore, and I'm not going to take my wealth with me."
And while the exact specs on how his machine worked remains a mystery, along with its location, Sid did give some clues to what made it tick. According to Hurwich, he took the, quote, "basic principles of electricity" and put it to a different use. But what those principles are, he has never revealed. And he also remained mum on exactly how the device worked. Theories have circulated that his invention used some type of large magnet, thus creating a beam of concentrated electromagnetic energy. But this has never been proven because a source could not be identified.
Researchers have even cited the similarity between the reports of Hurwich's device and the death ray invented by Nikola Tesla, but neither have been 100% confirmed. So how much of this story can be verified as fact? Sid's wife, for one, has given testimony that she witnessed his machine and its effects firsthand. In fact, it was she who suggested its possible interest to the Israeli military.
And the numerous credible newspapers cited not only his time-altering device, but his receiving the award. It leads to the question of why an appliance repairman from Toronto, Canada, would be privy to such an illustrious award given by the Israelis to someone with no military background or connection. Skeptics point out that if such a device existed, the Israeli military would have fared better in its decades-long battle in the Middle East, leaving one to agree.
And the final piece to this strange puzzle is what exactly became of Hurwich. No obituary has ever been located, and even his family has remained quiet on his death, assuming he is now dead, of course. Or did Hurwich use his machine to travel into the future? Hopefully, someday, we find out for sure. weather, I think.
Weather is very important to me.
Should we double as a weather discussion
We
podcast?
could probably do a better job than our local news station. Like, Daryl is always getting on the phone, on the weather app, for the news channel. I
Mhm.
won't say their name. And, well, like, I'm partly to blame for this because I'll be like, babe, is it going to rain today? I always want to know if it's going to rain.
Mhm.
It's going to rain or we're going to get a blizzard. One or the other. I need to know these things.
Yeah.
And he'll be, nope, they say 0 rain today. All right, well, I know for a fact it's going to rain then. Because legit, they are constantly wrong. You never noticed that? Check it out. Like, I'm not lying.
I know you're not lying.
And then he always says, I'll be like, I thought it wasn't going to rain today. Well, the app said, I'm like, when? It's been 5 years now. When are you going to give up on the app, Daryl?
He's got an issue. He's got
You
a problem.
can't. His attachment to that weather app is just like, at any given time, you could be 100 feet away from us, and he would hear someone say, what's the weather going to be? And he'll be like, hold on. I got it. Hold on. Hold on.
It's his whoopee.
Yes. He checks it as soon as he gets up. He checks it probably 20 times throughout the day. And then before he goes to bed, okay, like, what is it going to be tomorrow? 0%. Better grab the raincoat.
Yeah. I could probably guarantee that Sid Hurwhich would probably come up with a better machine for weather information dispersion.
I'm sure he would. We need to get a hold. Well, he's dead now, so we're kind
we
of
think,
screwed.
right?
Well, he could. You know where he could be?
Where?
He could be with. What was it that had all that money? DB Cooper.
DB Cooper, yeah.
So Sid Hurwich and DB Cooper could be hiding out somewhere,
They could.
like on an island in Indonesia or something like that.
Yeah.
Amelia Earhart would be there. Elvis would be there.
Definitive proof of Sasquatch.
Just saying.
Yeah. Okay, so for today we got Sid Hurwich and his. We considered it a time-altering machine?
Well, it never, like, based on the research, it never says time traveling machine. But in theory, if you were able to freeze time, I don't know.
But things were still. This is kind of. Let's get right into it, okay? We're in Canada, which first off, fantastic, because we don't hear many stories that come from Canada.
I know.
Like, they hold their secrets so tightly in Canada.
They're tight-lipped.
Yeah, like, good job, but that sucks. Share your stories, Canada. Come on.
Open up.
So we got one today, the Sid Hurwich. So being up in Canada, and we kind of framed the narrative, at least in the first part, as being the rash of robberies, to which Sid came up with this device to help them catch the robbers, correct?
He had actually been tinkering and come up with this device. And then this string of robberies happened, and I guess he's seen it probably in the newspaper or wherever, and he thought about it, and he thought, wait a minute, I think my device could allow the police, help them to solve this case.
Mm-hmm.
So he actually went and he called the police and said, can you imagine getting this call? My name is Sid Hurwich, and I have this device that I think could be of use to you. It freezes time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, at first they thought he was like some kind of joke or something.
Do you think he, like, Billy May style pitched it? Like, for
Maybe.
OxyClean?
But wait.
Yeah.
There's more. He might have,
And then they were reticent because they didn't know whether or not it was someone just called in and then left their phone next to, like, an infomercial.
Yeah.
Like, is this a really real call? Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Like for real?
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
And so he finally convinced them to come to his house to check it out. I don't know. He may have Billy Mays it. He might have been like, I got a time freezing device and we'll cook you up a prime rib dinner. And they're like, sold. You could get me with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wouldn't even need prime rib if you just said, gonna make some chocolate chip cookies.
We're going to try it.
I'll be right there.
But they did try it. And
They did.
They came to his home, right?
Yep.
And they came in, and there was kind of two pieces of direct happenings.
Yes.
Which the first would have been the revolver, like, sticking to the table.
Yes, they could not. They tried and tried. And these aren't small guys. I mean, these are,
like Sword in the Stone, stuck, like,
yeah.
sat on the table.
Yep.
And they
could
weren't
not
worthy,
lift it off.
They weren't worthy enough to get the revolver back.
Nope.
Okay, so you couldn't fire it. You
couldn't do anything to it.
Which, by the way, did they try to fire it?
I know. I wondered that. Too. Like, what, you're going to shoot a hole in the Hurwich house?
Yeah.
I mean, come on now.
Like, we can't move it. Does it shoot still?
If I were his wife, I bet she butted in and was like,
Hold on now.
I don't think so, Sid. That is not my house. You go out to the garage or the shed or something like that, but not my kitchen.
As I heard that part, like I think they
got to make prime rib.
I think they explicitly said that it would not fire.
Yeah,
which insinuates that they tried to fire it.
What would they have done if it did? Oops.
Well, that works. Never mind.
Bye, Sid.
We're gonna have to turn the table around if we need to fire it at anybody. So they.
I hope they didn't live in the city limits. Wow.
So they can't move the revolver. They can't fire the revolver.
Nope.
Effectively rendering it basically lacquered to the table.
Yes.
I mean, essentially.
Yes.
And I assume that Sid eventually turns the machine off to get the revolver off the table.
Yeah. And it is normal. Everything's back to normal.
And then that brings us to the second piece of happenings, which would have been the time loss.
25 minutes.
25 minutes of time loss.
So I believe he said he effectively started it as soon as they walked in the door.
Yeah.
So he probably turned it on.
Which I guess what I'm not understanding is if you walk into a room and you turned it on.
Wouldn't they freeze?
But the revolver froze. Yeah, the revolver froze.
So wait a minute. How would the revolver freeze? So it was effectively frozen, right, in time?
Yeah.
But yet, what is going on around them? Sid is answering the door. The officers are coming in. They're moving around trying to lift this revolver off the table. Why is the revolver the only thing, unless that's what he's like shooting this beam or ray through? You see what I mean? Like you aim it at something and time only freezes in that for that thing or that area. That must be it.
Now, the second thought I had about that is we have Sid, and this was from the Vancouver Sun-Times article, and this was quoted. So if you happen to go back to the narrative, those two sections that we're talking about right now about the revolver not being able to be moved, and then the time loss, are all quoted. This is not us saying this. So Sid was quoted in the Vancouver Sun-Times as saying, "You walked in there about 25 minutes ago, and now look at your watches. You're late about 25 minutes. So if you walked in at 4 o'clock and you walk out at 4:25, that just seems like how time works. That doesn't seem like you lost time."
I see what you're saying.
So you walk in at 4, you walk out at 4:25. Yeah, you're late 25 minutes because you were in the room.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So maybe I'm misunderstanding his quote. I mean, if anybody listening to this episode can provide some, I guess, additional thought on that literal quote, I don't understand. Like, I guess if their watches would have been frozen when they walked in at 4, they walked back out at 4, because if the revolver froze to the table, and somehow miraculously, they're still able to move around and converse and do whatever they want to do in the room, to discover that you couldn't move the revolver.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
First, why aren't they affected?
Yeah.
And second, wouldn't at least their watch be affected? You walk in at 4, it stays 4 till you walk out, and then you walk out, and then 4 minutes 1 second, 4 minutes 2 seconds, 4 minutes 3 seconds. Now you've lost 25 minutes. But if you walk in at 4 o'clock and you walk out at 4:25, that's how time works.
Unless they walked in at 4 o'clock and then checked their watch and it's still 4 o'clock.
Yeah, but that's not what he said.
I know. I'm just trying to think in my mind, how would that have went?
Interesting. I don't know. There's got to be something I'm missing.
Yeah.
So, but what we're not missing is the fact that the Israeli military gave Hurwich
that award.
Yeah. Now that is documented, correct?
That is documented.
I don't know if there's
newspapers covered it.
I don't know if there's like a Jewish Israeli Hall of Fame with him in it that says it's documented or what, but it is documented that he received that award.
Well, yeah, there were reporters and people there to cover the event, and there were articles in the paper.
Yeah.
That stated the fact. So that is legit, which brings about the question: why would they give
a non-military personnel?
Yes.
Someone who's not even affiliated.
No.
Other than religious solidarity, being from Canada, and the Israeli being obviously from Israel and the Middle East.
Yeah.
Why would that be any concern?
Exactly.
So something must have happened between the Zionist organization that, I think physically gave him the award.
Yeah.
Something must have happened between Sid and the Israeli government to warrant the award.
Exactly.
So whether or not you want to speculate as to whether or not it's something with this time-altering machine or not,
Something
happened.
Something happened.
Something
yes.
happened for Sid to get the award.
Yeah.
So what was it? So the only thing we can come to right now is it's something possibly with this device, which would then lead us to the raid on Entebbe.
Yeah.
Correct? Do you want to?
Yes.
Do you want to kind of go over that?
On the raid in Entebbe, and that happened, I believe, in 1976, I think.
76, July
76,
4th.
yes. There were 101 hijackers had taken 101 hostages.
Struggling with that all day.
I know. And this happened at the Entebbe airport. So somehow the Israeli military was able to fly in there undetected. They flew through 6 different nations through their radar,
Yeah.
completely undetected,
Yeah.
and swooped in and rescued these 101 hostages. So there was that question of, how is that possible, right?
So people were kind of insinuating that possibly this device
Had
was
something to
used.
do with that. Yeah, yeah. So this really makes me think that maybe someone leaked information, because when he received this award, it was like almost immediately that the story just kind of went viral.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, their version of viral.
their version. I mean, it was on the newspapers all over the world, and so why would him getting this award in Canada be linked to the raid on Entebbe?
Yeah.
I mean, that's an awful big leap there without information having been leaked out to the press or to something.
Now, my first question though is we're trying to come up with how, let's backtrack first off. Let's backtrack a hair. How did the Israeli government fly through those 6 countries without being noticed? Okay.
Exactly.
And we're talking about 1976.
Some type of cloaking, something had to have happened.
And my first thought would be the SR-71 Black Hawk plane. Now, have you seen this plane before? You've never seen this?
I might have.
What was it? Broken Arrow? Remember the movie Broken Arrow?
Oh, okay, yeah.
With John Travolta and Christian Slater?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, I believe that was an SR-71 Black Hawk. And I'm sure on some of your investigations or some of your research on the extraterrestrial phenomenon,
yeah,
that some people, especially between, and I don't quite have like dates with me specifically, but maybe 50s into the 70s.
Was it that early?
Because they never. It was a deep secret project. I mean, you didn't want everybody to know that you're coming up with a plane that you couldn't really detect unless you saw it. You know, you don't want that. Now, with that SR-71, it flies so high that you usually can't see it with your eyes. And the big thing with the Black Hawk would be, and it's always reminded me, if you've never seen one, it's always reminded me, there was this arcade game back in the 90s where you would sit down in the chair and you'd have like a joystick.
Oh,
and you would have these tanks. And they were blocky tanks, and you would fire the tanks. And it was so amazing for the time, because it was almost like a world they built that you could navigate. And it was awesome. But the blocky integrity and the way that the images were put together for the tanks remind me of how the Black Hawk actually works. And that is actually integral to the operation of kind of whenever the radar, comes as a wave, it'll kind of bounce around. And that's kind of how it does that. It doesn't bounce off of it as if it were something else to detect. Yep, there's something there. It bounces around it, making it seem invisible to the radar. But that's kind of what it reminds me of. So I believe the first test flight, and I think if you could do a Google search, and I'm going to do a Google search right now so everybody else can do it. If you Google search the SR-71 Black Hawk, it says the first flight was the 22nd of December, 1964.
So that was 13 years prior to...
Yes, and that also is the date that we're given. That's not necessarily
when it really happened.
When it could have happened.
Yeah. It was around before that.
Yes, and this is where I get conspiratorial so far, and I might have misled everybody up until this point, especially in the trailer with how conspiratorial I am. But this I will get conspiratorial over, because this is just everyday governmental logic. Okay?
Yeah.
You don't want the stuff you're testing to get out. Not even from the little peons to say something, to the higher ups to find something, let alone spies from other governments, because then you've blown where you're going. because now you give everybody else an idea of the direction you're heading, gives them at least the idea on the direction to head themselves. So to say, or to be given the date of 1964, December 22nd, as the first flight, let's be honest, it probably wasn't the first flight at all.
Yeah.
So even if we're completely lied to, and they've had the SR-71 Blackhawk since the Civil War, that still means that the date given to us as a community at large, as a populace, as a bunch of peons,
it's a later
is
date.
still before the July 4th, 1976.
Oh yeah, any way you want to look at it. It's definitely way before.
So even if it wasn't this device, in theory, could the Israelis been using some type of technology such as the SR-71 Blackhawk?
Well, sure.
Okay, so I wanted to put that out there.
Yeah.
That it could be done, especially at that point in time.
Yes, and I can totally agree with that. However, like I said, something had to have happened that would tie Hurwich into this whole chain of events here.
And that's totally true.
Yep. Why would you pick out I know he owned two businesses, and he did have the distinction of being the only appliance repairman in Canada in 1934.
Yeah.
But I'm sure the general population by 1976, 42 years later, had kind of not even really thought about Sid Hurwich anymore.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you have him being given this illustrious award. Where's the connection there?
I agree.
There's something in there. Something had to have happened.
Yep, I agree. I totally agree. There's got to be a connection. And I think that connection, the secrecy of that connection possibly, or at least the lack of knowledge or circulation of that connection helps to breed this kind of paranormal story.
Yeah, and with his wife, she both said it and heard when the officers came to the house that day say that this would be good for some type of military application.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have that, then he gets this award.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, going on the common train of thought, the military and war is the single best inventor of things. That's just the way it has been.
Yeah.
In times of non-war, things that are invented, they are invented, but the things that are invented during wartime are invented faster. They're invented more efficiently. And that's just the way it goes.
Well, for one, you have to figure they have unlimited cash flow.
Exactly.
Yep.
And then they also have a testing process that is immediately applicable to whatever you may need. So it is not entirely out of the question at all that the first thought of just about anybody, even if you're against it, to think that the military could use this for applications that whatever they may need to use.
Yeah.
Need to use it for.
They'd love to get their hands on this.
Exactly.
Kind of thing.
And like I said, both negative and positive. So some people are totally supportive of it, like what seems to be those Toronto police. Oh, they could really use this. Other people would think in the exact opposite. Well, I need to keep it a secret because they will use it and then I'll die or something like that. I don't know. But
you know what immediately came to my mind? It was also the Nikola Tesla death ray. But another thing that I immediately thought of was the pyramids over in Egypt.
How so?
How, like the Baghdad battery. I'm sure you've heard about that, right?
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. Something like that. Why would they want to create electricity? They didn't have anything to plug in or anything like that. I don't know. Like my mind instantly went to that.
Okay. That's a separate discussion.
It is.
Let's not get into that.
It is. But
yeah,
that's where my mind went to. Like it clicked.
Yeah.
Egyptian pyramids.
Because we're talking like 5,000 year difference in
we are,
mentality.
Yes. But even Hurwich himself said, that was one of the reasons he didn't want to get a patent on it. Because it was so simple that you didn't even need a patent. So I find that super interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yet we don't have anything of the like even
still,
today.
Yeah.
So the simplicity has been not founded again.
Can you imagine if we did have something like that?
What would you even use it for?
Well, I don't know what I would use it for, but I know what Daryl would use it for.
What would Daryl use it for?
Probably to make the Cheetos and Twinkies stick to the table so that I couldn't get them off. I could totally see him doing something like that.
If he slobbers all over it, like sticks it in his mouth and just lobs spit all over it, and then sticks it there and kind of hides it for a while, it could stick to the likes of this device, though.
It Could. I'd be very mad. I'd be mad first off because you licked my Twinkies and my Cheetos. But then you stick them to the table where I can't. Like, that's divorce talk.
Wow.
Honestly.
Wow.
I mean, I'm just saying.
We went super hardcore.
Well, there are some things you just don't mess with.
Apparently.
And somebody's Twinkies and Cheetos. Don't touch my snack foods.
Moving on. And then we come to the kind of last kind of oddity to this story, which would be, aside from the amazing machine in question not having been found, or schematics, or somebody recreating it, but the end of Mr. Hurwich's life.
What happened to Sid?
What did happen to Sid?
It's like, where's Waldo? Where's Sid?
Where's Sid?
Or what's that show? Where in the world?
Carmen Sandiego.
Carmen Sandiego.
There you go, yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't have an obituary for him. The entire family kind of keeps it secret?
Nothing.
So
Nothing.
So have any of the subsequent Hurwiches ever been questioned about what happened?
I don't
just,
believe
denying
so.
it?
I don't know. Or maybe they just slam the door in your face. I don't know.
Did you find a family plot that he could be in?
No.
But he's not?
Nothing. Nothing. I mean, the trail just ends.
Is there a possibility he's still alive?
Well, he was born in 1918, so he would be 101. So, I mean, yeah, I guess it is possible. He could be.
Hey, somewhere he's going to come knocking at the door one day. I'm alive.
See, I kind of thought that too. Did he go off somewhere? I don't know. Time traveling?
Oh, I thought you meant like Mario World style.
Wow.
That's
Yep. I don't know why.
He went to a new level?
He went to a new level.
He went to
That's
level 2, stage 2?
He might have. He could be, I don't know, Sid could be anywhere.
So you are now officially posing the theory that there is a possibility that he used this, from what we said at the beginning, not necessarily time travel machine, but time freezing machine, to go somewhere else.
There have been other accounts of this. I can't remember the guy's name.
Using a time freezing machine and not a time travel machine.
No, time traveling, yeah. But, I mean, okay, if this guy was a genius at building these machines, if he could effectively figure out how to build a time freezing machine, I wouldn't, he could have built some kind of time travel device down in his basement or something, and just not.
But we want to make it clear that
got mad at his wife one day and was like, "Screw it, I'm leaving. I'm out of here. Had it with you."
Let's make it clear that this is not part of the story.
No, it isn't. This is just hypothetically. We're just kind of thinking here. Well,
he's in a nursing home somewhere wearing a tinfoil hat, spinning in circles.
I hope that isn't true.
I'm time traveling.
Whee!
That's not fun. That's not funny to make fun of senior mental health.
No, it's really not.
Dementia's not fun.
Dementia is, then again, it might be. I mean, you never really know,
You meet new people every day.
You meet new people. Hey, I haven't seen you in 50 years.
That's a terrible joke.
I was just here yesterday.
We'll probably get some backlash for it.
God, I never know when to shut up. I should not be on podcasts.
We hope he's alive. God. We hope he's alive and healthy and not spinning in circles going, I'm in a time machine for the entire day.
Sid, call me. Just call me.
He's 101, though. And the stories he could tell just from being 101.
Of course, he may be older than 101. You never know.
You think he's lying about his birthday?
Well, no. I'm just saying, if he's in and out, he could be 10,000 years old.
He's got some type of Jewish secret to never dying.
I don't know. Great. Now, see, you've offended the Jewish community now.
No, I have a high respect for the Jewish community. I think that could be a possibility, that they could stick guns to tables.
I think we might be Jewish. No, I was just thinking about that with the DNA thing I had done. I think we might be Jewish.
What DNA test did you take?
Or, with the whole cancer thing and everything. Yeah.
Was a certain portion Semitic?
Well, no, I'm just saying. I just wondered. I should really get that done.
I thought you did get it done.
No, well, it was for weird diseases.
Weird diseases?
Yeah, rare diseases. Huh. And it, like with the BRCA too.
Oh,
and that
right.
traces back that it's predominantly found in Jewish people.
Huh, interesting.
So we may be Jewish.
Interesting.
Oy vey. Could be.
I need to brush
If we
up.
are, I'm going to start saying that all the time. Like, that's going to be my catchphrase.
Oy vey?
Oy vey. I'll have to learn how to swear. Can you swear in Jewish?
I believe you could swear in every conceivable
Well, I
human
would think
language.
so, but I'm going to need you to research that because I have to know.
I used to know the entirety of the Hebrew alphabet.
Did you really? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I used to be able to repeat it.
Could you say my name and
No. I
Why
can't
not?
do that. Because there's a difference in knowing how to say a letter and then how to formulate words.
well, give me the alphabet real quick.
Oh, are you serious?
Come on.
It's been so long.
It's been so long.
You really want to hear what I remember?
Yeah.
Oh. I'm going to offend everybody who knows Hebrew.
We're going to get hate mail from the...
All right, I'll give it a shot, but this has been years since I've known it.
Get on with it, Betty.
Aleph, Beit, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zion, Cheth, Teth, Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samach, Ayin, Pei, Tzadi, Shin, Sin, Tav. I think that's it.
That wasn't bad.
I think that's all of it. And then, like, I had found one video that someone had put it to Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, which, fun fact of the day, if you didn't know, is what our alphabet song is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I never thought about that.
Yep. So that's your fun fact of the day. So, like, it would help you remember it like that. So, Aleph, Beit, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zion, Cheth, Teth, Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samach, Ayin, Pei, Tzadi, Kaf, Resh, Shin, Sin, and Tav. I think that's right.
Huh.
Now I know my Hebrew ABCs.
Hebrew ABC. Like we have denominational ABCs.
Yeah, there you go.
So now I know my Chinese ABCs.
If anybody, if any listener, current or in the future, knows their Hebrew ABCs and they want to correct me, feel free, because it's been years since I remember.
And apparently the song Twinkle Twinkle Little Star is universally known.
Well, because that professor who was kind of saying it was an English-speaking professor.
Oh.
So he was teaching within the United States, so it's easier to reapply whatever you're learning new to something you already know. So you already kind of know the tune of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star.
Now I'm going to have to remember that. I'm going to have to incorporate that into my classes now.
What, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll probably come out with like a hypnosis meditation that's based on, and then I'll get sued for copyright and the whole damn thing goes down in flames.
Yeah, now you've got me worried about the release of this podcast and how much flack I'm going to catch.
Crap. Well, good, because I seem to do it every week. Last time I have offended the Australians. And
hey,
God.
But if you know us in person, though, especially if you know me in person, I go out of my way to learn about your cultural identity. Like, I love learning that stuff. We used to work, actually, you and I used to work together at a filter making factory here in Ohio. And we had one coworker who I believe he was of Lebanese descent. And his father, well, he was of Lebanese descent, but he lived in Ireland because his dad was the Lebanese ambassador to Ireland at the time. And this was years ago because this person that we worked with was getting older in age. I can't remember his name, and even if I did remember, I wouldn't say it.
Oh, no.
But he was teaching me some Arabic. And so, like, I know a phrase now. So today when I deliver some of my equipment that I deliver, sometimes I go to Arabic households. So I know vaguely, like if the woman answers, how I should try to handle it the best I can because of their beliefs. But I also ask if I could try the only phrase in Arabic I know, which is marhaba kayf halek, which I believe translates directly to like hello, how is your situation, which is essentially how you doing.
Oh, how do they respond whenever you say that?
9 times out of 10, they're really, really surprised.
Yeah, I bet.
And I don't know, like, when I just said it, my mouth is really dry, so I don't know if I rolled my tongue well enough, but usually I roll my tongue much better. But they're usually super excited.
Oh, yeah.
And it's that connection because they usually feel kind of apprehensive about someone coming to the door.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way it kind of is with everybody.
Yeah.
So once you kind of say that, I try to do that to make that connection to kind of ease their tension.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes with a certain side of town in Toledo has a lot of Russian people. So I try to learn some Russian as well.
Oh.
I haven't spoken that one as consistently, so there used to be some Russian that I would know, and now I've since probably forgotten quite a bit of it. I know like "Do svidaniya" I think it's goodbye. "Do svidaniya" or is it thank you? See, I don't even remember.
Oh.
"Spasiba" I think is thank you, and "Do svidaniya" is see you later. Anyway, so we've gotten way off topic.
I know, but that's just,
We did last week too. So let's bring this back around. Do you have any other thing about Sid Hurwich's time freezing device?
No, I think that's it.
Pretty good? Yeah.
I think this is a super fascinating case. I just would love to know the unknowable. What happened to Sid?
Yeah.
Where's the device?
The ins and outs.
I
wouldn't necessarily say unknowable. I mean,
well,
there could be answers out there, just it hasn't surfaced yet. Maybe it's a family secret by this point. They're just
at this point we don't know.
Hold on to some Hurwich silence or something. So hopefully one day we will have some answers to his device because it is interesting.
Yes.
But until we do, we are finished with this week. We'd like to say thank you one more time for hopping on board with us this week. If you have any comments, questions, critiques, or suggestions for new topics, please send us an email at supernaturaltendentiespodcast@gmail.com. We also encourage you to get over our Facebook page at Supernatural Tendencies Podcast and go ahead and just smash that like button if you would. We are also available on Instagram if that's more to your liking. Please pass us around to your friends as well, where they can find us on Podbean, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, and most other major podcast platforms.
And remember, if you're having any type of paranormal activity or extraterrestrial contact, I offer private coaching online via Skype or Facebook Messenger to assist you with those issues. Feel free to visit me at ChristyJohnsonSadler.com for contact information.
Till next time, this has been Alex.
And Christy.
See you later. All right, so for this week's Musician Spotlight, we had Reflex Machine. I'm kind of semi-close with this band. My band actually records at their studio. They're kind of their own kind of record label. It's called Over the Counterculture Records. They do have a few other bands involved with that studio, so all these bands are kind of quote-unquote signed to Over the Counterculture Records, but it's not exactly the traditional sense as you would think of being signed to a label, as in the kind of label becomes your workhorse as the band. We is more of a collaborative, so we all kind of work for each other. So whenever we get shows, we'll kind of promote each other. There's a few other bands on this collective, like I said. Some we have lined up for featuring. I'm still trying to get a hold of some of the other ones here. But for today, like I said, Reflex Machine out of Columbus, Ohio. I believe they just added a member, Danny. He's from another band, I believe, down in that area. They consist of James on the guitar and vocals, Alex on drums, and now Danny on synth and kind of ambient noises. I think they have it described on their Facebook page. If I had to describe Reflex Machine, it would be, man, all over the board. It's kind of doomy, kind of droney, kind of metal, kind of indie. It's a little bit of everything, but to sum it up, it's some hard stuff. So if you like harder music, you're going to like Reflex Machine. They are celebrating their first record release called Inner Zone. So I believe that was last month or the month before they had released that album. You can go on their website, reflexmachine.com, and purchase Inner Zone via, I think they have digital downloads, CDs, as well as vinyls. They also offer bundles. So if anybody's interested,
cool.
Yeah, if you're interested with the song we featured today, please go and get a bundle, because they offer, like, you can get I think it's a t-shirt with a vinyl and something else as well. And they have a whole list of bundles you can get. Instead of a vinyl, I think they offer like a t-shirt digital download or something like
That's
that
awesome.
as well. Yeah, so go through, look at that menu, because this album is fantastic.
Now, do they have a Facebook page too?
They do. Yeah, they run the gambit of all the social media. You can find Reflex Machine on your preferred media outlet. Like I said, they have their own website at reflexmachine.com. You can also purchase Inner Zone on their Bandcamp. That's kind of a thing now too. So if anybody is not aware of Bandcamp, you can get on there. You can download, you can buy their, I think you could buy it on a per song basis, or you could buy the whole album however you want. And I think you can actually share it with your friends. So if you have a friend who you think might like a song that you have, I think you could share it with them.
Oh, that's cool.
So like kind of spreading the word, and they can go on and they can buy it themselves
Yeah.
too. They are very active in shows here recently and into the near future, promoting Inner Zone. They will be, I believe last night they were in Pittsburgh. I seen last night or the night before last. At the time of recording, it would have been last week, or at the time of you listening, it would have been last week. October 12th in Philadelphia, they're at the Thorna Gallery. October 16th, they will be in Baltimore, Maryland at Down Squares. October 8th, they'll be in Richmond, Virginia at Lucy Lane. They come back to Ohio October 25th at the Dome in Kent, Ohio. And then the Buzz Bin in Canton, Ohio, October 26th. I think they have one more show. Oh, they have an event there October 31st. Spoopy Kids Smocking Mids Tour. I don't know much about that one, though. So if you're interested in any of those dates, any of those locations, you will not be disappointed if you go out and see them. They have had a few bloggers, a few internet magazines, a few publications here and there do interviews with them about Inner Zone. So if you don't believe me, you could find a plethora of information on Reflex Machine.
Awesome.
Yep, I was super excited today. They gave us permission to use their song "Burn It Down." So here it is.
Ooh.